With US budget cuts, fears of people with AIDS having more AIDS. Next, Colombia president says cocaine is no worse than whiskey. A confident take from a man who must be on cocaine. Details on the rotting lobster now that the government is no longer picking up migrant tabs at upscale New York City restaurants. Next, American news media debates whether it's appropriate to call someone a dick.
That calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government.
Well, he is a dick.
Lastly, scandal at the Westminster Dog Show is the giant schnauzer placing first is alleged to be a racist.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lightly hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. I hope you guys are here. You're here to join me live as we gather together for today's news. And let's get right into it. We're doing 2 episodes this week, so we don't have to meander. We don't have to scream about my neighbor. We did that earlier. We talked about flying. We did all the nonsense, which means we can get right into what's gone on over the last couple days. And Donald Trump, he's doing some of the things that I love from Donald Trump. And this might be one of my favorite Donald Trump moments to date, which is addressing toilet quality. I don't know how many times you guys have tuned into a White House briefing and saw a president that wanted to get up there and really get into some of the most crucial issues. I like this. The guy's fixing light bulbs. He's claiming that it's not that he spends too much time in a tanner. He's saying that there's some light bulbs out there that just make him look a little bit too orange. And then he's taking care of the water pressure. And you would think, you know, maybe this is the false bravado of him covering up for the fact that those are some plugs. But when you're washing your face fake horse hair, you need some good water pressure to make sure that it looks good. And then the next thing is apparently John Fetterman's been spending a little bit too much time at the White House clogging up the old toilets. I told him, Marjorie Taylor Greene and this Fetterman guy, they keep clogging the toilets. You shouldn't have to flush a toilet 9, 10, 12. I have that problem in my apartment. I got a bad toilet. It becomes an issue. All right, here we go. Let's roll the clip.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once. They end up using more water. So EPA is looking at that very strongly, at my suggestion. You go into a new building or a new house or a new home, and they have standards on where you don't get water. You can't wash your hands practically. There's so little water comes out of the faucet. And the end result is you leave the faucet on, and it takes you much longer to wash your hands. You end up using the same amount of water. So we're looking at very seriously at opening up the standard. And there may be some areas where we'll go the other route, desert areas. But for the most part, you have many states where they have so much water that it comes down. It's called rain. That they don't know what to do with it. So we're going to be opening up that and other elements of bathrooms where you turn the faucet on in areas where there's tremendous amounts of water, where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it, and you don't get any water. You turn on the faucet, you don't get any water. They take a shower and water comes dripping out. It's dripping out, very quietly dripping out. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once. They end up using more water. So EPA is looking at that very strongly, at my suggestion. You go into a new building or a new house or a new home, and they have standards on where you don't get water. You can't wash your hands practically. There's so little water comes out of the faucet. And the end result is you leave the faucet on, and it takes you much longer to wash your hands. You end up using the same amount of water. So we're looking at very seriously at opening up the standard. And there may be some areas where we'll go the other route, desert areas. But for the most part, you have many states where they have
We're going to need a new board in here. The amount of equipment that I own that does not work properly, and we'll just spend a couple $1,000s on other things that will sit on the desk that I don't know how to work. But I could do an entire Donald Trump presidency of just addressing petty bullshit. I hear from many fat people their turds won't flush since they changed the toilet. They bought a new toilet and nothing's good. You know what's funny? You ever walk down the toilets at Home Depot and it tells you that you can flush 42 golf balls down the toilet? And you're like, how did that become the turd metric? Or do golf balls flush more easily down the toilet than turds? Like, can you give it to me in a turd standard? I've never taken my turds and then converted them into golf balls. I mean, there's a part of me that would think golf balls would more easily get stuck in the toilet because they would end up wedging together. But maybe the way that they have like the little divots in them, even though there's a lot of volume to 26, they're separate pieces. What if you molded all of those things, all of those golf balls into one turd? How did toilet flushing end up on a golf ball metric? Are other people out here shitting golf balls out of their asshole, clogging toilets, that the best way for the Home Depot to let you know what would be a good toilet is to let you know? Or maybe that's a contractor thing. It's like one of those things you just got to learn the way that things are supposed to be measured. All right, moving on to our next story. This is a fun one, and believe me, the Wednesday intro guy, which we film on Sunday, is going to have a field day with this topic. But this is from NBC News. Mississippi lawmaker introduces Contraception Begins at Erection Act. The bill, which is unlikely to pass, would make it unlawful for a person to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Which that's got to be a fun one to enforce, where you're in court and you're going, I was edging, Your Honor. I didn't mean to. I was edging. I swear I wasn't planning on. I was just edging. Or the cops come over and you go, no, I was about to blow this in someone's asshole. He's in the bathroom. Or you got in your hands. You're like, I'm gonna shove that in my girlfriend later. I was gonna donate this. This was a sperm donation. Here, take as much as you want. You guys are already here. Were you looking for some of this? I like how today no one's playing music, and I hope they have to listen to this. My takeaway from this is it's kind of like that clip that I just played at the intro, where that guy was calling Elon Musk a dick. I just think that the Democrats have no idea how to be cool. They don't know how to do it. They've spent so long whining, complaining, going, you guys can't use this language. This is inappropriate. You're going to undermine our democracy. They've so lost their ability to be cool that here's an attempted humor where what they want to do is say, hey, I don't think that, women should be told by the government that they can or they can't have abortions. And so I think they're trying to be funny. But here's the problem. It doesn't even make sense. Contraception begins at erection, but there's no semen at the point of the erection. How early of a premature comer are you that once you get an erection, you're spilling some semen? Because if the idea is once you spill this, I know I'm being very Talmudic here, but if the idea here is once you spill the semen, then that's when the beginning of life is. And so therefore, the same as you can't be told that, you can't kill the thing that's already growing inside of you because it's conjoined with another thing that started to form the process of life. So you're going to take the earlier thing that wasn't even combined with the other thing and say that it actually begins with that. But that's not from the erection. The erection is not the semen coming out. You could call it the Wasted Semen Prevention Act, or when the load has been blown, the baby is already starting to be grown. Or when the load has been blown, a child has been formed. I guess that would be the way to say it. Once the load has been blown, the child has already been formed. I speak to this Congress, and I gather here to say that a load that has been blown, the child has been formed. You see, that at least makes sense. But the Contraception Begins at Erection Act, when your act is actually not against erections, but only against once the semen comes out of the erection, that doesn't make sense. But let me tell you, this guy, well, let's hear it in his own words. This guy, he thought this one out. Here was the other one. Clear exceptions for sperm donation. Like I said, the cops knock down your door, they catch you jerking off, and you're yelling, I was going to donate that. That was for charity. And here he is. Let's hear why this man put this together. I'm sure that he thought this one out. I mean, he's in Congress. The guy's in Congress. He's trying to come up with good jokes. He's trying to pass laws and legislations to raise awareness for the fact that women should be allowed to kill their babies. And so let's roll the tape and let's see, because clearly he thought this one out. I mean, if this already made the newspaper, this guy must have thought this out, so let's see where he was coming from. Oh, and now I got to make 12 adjustments so it doesn't echo. Hold on a second, everybody.
Filed last summer.
I can't remember which bill it was that I saw that was targeting people that helped someone get an abortion. I was like, this is getting out of hand, and it's always targeting women.
Blackman said
he can't remember what he saw that inspired him to do so. It's okay when you're on the Run Your Mouth podcast and you're just kind of ringing it and you go, hey, I think I saw this thing and maybe it was this and here's my opinion on it. But when you're doing the news segment about the bill that you're trying to pass and why you're trying to pass it, you'd think you'd come on with a little bit more information than that. And do you really want to be on the record that the only way that you can blow a load is if it's someone's asshole or to create life? Seems like a losing proposition. All right, next up, John Popek, Robbie needs a GoFundMe for new equipment. No, I think I just have to read some manuals and tinker a little bit more. We got good equipment in this place. It's one of those things where it's you could be a bad poker player and handed good cards and not know what the fuck to do with them. And then, it's the producers that come in here at night, they unplug things, they replug things, but we're getting rid of this board. I hate this board. I don't know, it might sound good on your ends. I don't like the way it sounds, and I got to press too many buttons when we're playing videos, and I ran a test 3 days ago to make sure that the videos weren't double back. I don't know why they started doubling back, but I'm not going to yell about these things forever. I'm just going to deal with it over the weekend. I just picked up a whole bunch of Adderall, so, we'll get things like this done. It's no big deal. Catching 45 offer. I was planning on donating all these socks. That's a good one. All right, here, I'll take one more comment, and then on to the next news story. Ben Coakley, the golf ball to turd conversion is 2.87 golf balls equals 1 turd. And then Adam Magone, middle school would have been rough if erections had always produced semen. Yeah, that would be uncomfortable. When you get in those first erections in class and you hope you don't get called by the teacher, you're trying to tuck it in, you're trying to push it over, you're trying to think of garbage so that it will go away. And if that was just blasting loads upon the erection, that certainly would have made middle school. But then again, women just have, blood leaking out of their vaginas, and they're dealing with that situation. So, if we were all just blowing loads in our underpants as 3rd and 4th graders in school all the time, maybe that would make for a better world. Maybe we would normalize ejaculating your pants in public if it was just a fact of life. And let's be honest, the coolest amongst us would have the most ejaculate in our balls. It might go the other way, where you're being made fun of hey, Billy's never cummed his pants in school. So you might be wrong on that one. It's hard to imagine what a universe would have looked like where ejaculate comes out the second you get an erection. It's hard. We didn't live in that universe. It's almost like imagining what pre-existed the earth and whether or not it was or wasn't God and what created the Big Bang. There's things that are beyond our level of comprehension. And amidst the things that are beyond our level of comprehension would be what it might be like if you automatically, it would also be funny if that was the only way. If nothing changed, just the second you got an erection, it was instant. And then women to procreate had to try and, or like if you really launched it and they were like wide receivers and they had to grab it out of the air and try and shove it into their cunts. This is a filthy episode. Jalen Hurts and fiance Bri Burrows celebrated Eagles Super Bowl 2025 win with epic Disney World visit. And how much does it suck to win the Super Bowl, live out the greatest dream, and then I guess this is a marketing stunt where Disney spends that much money with the NFL that you have to pretend that after you won the Super Bowl, you want to spend the next day of your life on top of a float waving hands with Mickey Mouse. I mean, you're a fucking adult and you just won the Super Bowl. Isn't that the last place on earth that you want to be, is to waste it? I understand maybe a month after the Super Bowl or maybe before you go back into training camp, you're like, hey, let's do something nice with the kids. But that seems more like a nightmare that you actually successfully win the Super Bowl and then someone at the organization gives you a call and says, hey, listen, I know you don't want to go. I know you don't want to have to go to Disney World, but they spent a lot of money for us. Everybody does it. So, you're going to have to go down there for a day. All right, next topic. And then we got Bobby the Bank calling in soon. I see you guys mentioning sheath underwear in the chat. Adam Magone would need sheath underwear diapers. That is facts. Maybe we can bring this up with Bobby the Bank and see how sheath underwear might have been able to, because there is a good pocket in there. I feel like it could almost be. We'd probably wear condoms to school. That's probably just the way it would go. And then we'd all be complaining about the fact that we just have to wear condoms all the time. So now that I rethink it, the just shooting loads reality, I don't think it would be in men's favor. Except you would have the jackasses who forget their condoms and then impregnate their own pants. And then, everyone gets upset about it for them being their fault. And they're just like, hey, I'm just irresponsible. It would be interesting. You've got Eric Adams, who is now starting to work with the Trump administration. The Trump administration has dropped the charges against Eric Adams. It seems to me Eric Adams, he got into the office and he was as dumb of a Democrat as there's ever been a dumb Democrat. And so he was out there preaching that we need to have compassion for these people that live in foreign countries, even if they're illegally crossing our borders. I invite them to New York City, a sanctuary city where we will have the resources to help these individuals illegally crossing our borders. And then once they started shipping them up there, once enough of them kept coming over, once enough of them were in New York City that they couldn't afford the budgets for all the things that they have to do, and once New York City residents started getting a little bit annoyed about the problem of all the illegal immigrants there, homeboy starts changing his tune. He starts realizing, you know what, this isn't a great policy. And so he starts talking out and calling up Joe Biden and going, we got to do something about this. So I think he wasn't just in on the racket. He was a standard Democrat. And he was all about, we need to have compassion because that feels good. It feels good to pretend like the other people that have to deal with the mess, they're just being assholes for dealing with the mess. And so, we were living in a different woke world just 4 years ago where we were doing a better job of ignoring reality, pretending like we could be nice to everybody all the time. And if you ever say that the government shouldn't just provide health care for everybody, it's because you want the children dead and not because you understand economics and that there's a reality of rationing and prices and costs of goods, and that if we do that, then there will be the rationing of the services and nobody will get the services. It's not that. It's that you're just evil and want kids to be dead. And so, that was just 4 years ago we were living in that reality. And they're pumping all the money into the ESG scores. They're pumping all the money into the media that if you say anything that's contrary to this narrative, you're going to be called an asshole. You're going to say that you want the planet to die because global warming is creating weather patterns that we've never seen before. And so there's an entire media machine that's selling the CIA bullshit so that Larry Fink can make more money. You have to remember the world that we lived in just 4 years ago. And so Eric Adams, he was as big of an idiot as there's ever been. He's a part of this whole racket. He's in a liberal city, and he's shaming everybody else for what their thoughts and feelings are about illegal immigration, saying that we can just have compassion. And then guess what? He went down the compassion route to hell, and he decided, hey, we can just have everybody in, and it doesn't work out. In fact, it starts going horribly wrong. There's newspaper articles about how much money New York City is spending on this stuff. They're turning prime real estate out on Randall's Island into beds and housing for these people. Everyone's upset about it. He's losing all of his budget. Instead of putting homeless people up, they're putting these migrants into hotels. And he realizes I have a disaster on my hands. And so he just tries to get in touch with Joe Biden to let him know, hey, we've got a problem over here. We can't continue to ignore reality. Why don't we try and fix this problem? And Joe Biden goes, we got to ignore reality. That's what we're doing. We're ignoring it. And he's going, I don't think I can ignore reality any longer because reality's settling in really fast in New York City. And then Joe Biden goes, listen, if you don't get in line, we're going to give you the Donald Trump treatment. And so they create this crazy lawsuit because he called up the fire department and said, hey, I'm getting calls from the Turkey people that you won't give them their permit. It was very soft corruption at best of trying to tell a government department that they got to do the job that they're supposed to be doing anyways. That was the extent of the corruption. And for that, he was allowed to take Turkey flights for free with long stopovers and layovers. So, anyways, it would seem to me that Eric Adams, he is a dumb liberal. He started off with a bad liberal policy. He was honest enough to correct it. The Biden administration punished him for being honest to the American people of, hey, this is a bad policy and we're all going to suffer immensely if we continue to ignore reality. And then Donald Trump got elected and says, we're not going to prosecute you because that was ridiculous. And that was the weaponization of the Justice Department that they keep trying to pretend like I'm doing when clearly Biden was the worst at it. So anyways, you had Eric Adams was on Fox News with Tom Horman. And I would have liked that to have been a much better buddy cop movie than it actually was. That seems like a fun, odd pairing, a good matchup. You've got the gay Democrat cop party animal from New York lined up with Officer Hardass on the right, but it was too boring to watch. I would have hoped that would have been a more exciting pairing, but it was not. All right, now we've got coming onto the show. Looks like we're getting him while he's on the treadmill, getting his steps in for the day. And here we go. Let me just grab you, Bobby the Bank. And give me a second here, Bobby, because my guess is you might be echoing, in which case I'm going to have to make some adjustments. But, if you could say hello to everybody, and we'll let them
Hello, everyone.
We'll let them tell you if you're echoing, in which case I think I just have to mute myself while you're talking. You got like a standing desk? You just calling us from the treadmill here?
I actually bought this treadmill, and it's definitely echoing. There's something. That's better.
There we go. I think I got to mute myself. I might have to mute you when I'm talking and then mute me when you're talking, but we can figure this out. Bobby the Bank, it's a pleasure to have you here. Tell us about this treadmill you're working out on.
Okay, so I bought this treadmill off Amazon, and I'm able to really be more productive with my emails. And really, it's just clearing out all of my spam email, because when I'm really trying to focus, I don't necessarily use it, but I really like it. And it really gets the gears turning. Instead of just sitting there at your desk, you can be moving around and getting the.
So you actually, is that at a standing desk or you're just at the treadmill?
It's like it's a treadmill, and it has a little attachment where you can put your laptop on.
This is not a working system here that I have, Bobby the Bank. I got a new board here, and we're going to have to change it after all the hours I spent tinkering and trying to get the new equipment to work. But don't worry. Your sponsor dollars are going to a good spot in a professional organization, and we're gonna figure out this chaos. I have a standing desk. I spend most of my day standing, and I like to work out while I'm reading the news because otherwise I'm all fidgety and stuff. But I have considered upgrading to even, you know what I want? I want one of those like wobbly boards, which I've seen for people to balance on. I feel like, I don't know if you have any.
The wobbly board, just like a little surfer thing. I would buy a little mini treadmill to put under your walking desk or under your standing desk. They have them on TikTok. They're like $99. I'm all about TikTok these days, by the way. You gotta get on TikTok.
It is good advice. I will get on TikTok. Do you by chance have your phone on you? Because I think we're still getting an echo, and I'm pretty sure if I have you call in, I won't have that. Here. Go for that number. Let's give that a try. I think that might work better, assuming it's linked up. Until I find out that it's not linked up. Wait, hold on. It's coming unglued on the Run Your Mouth podcast. Live in action. I guess this is... No. All right, let's... Bobby the Bank, we'll figure out the segment. It's not... We're having problems over here. It happens to the best of us.
I was calling. Maybe if I took my earphones out, would that help? I don't know.
I think it's honestly it's on my end on this time. All right, Bobby the Bank. Before I let you go, tell us the latest and greatest from Sheath Underwear. What do we got going on?
Okay. It is very echoey. And it's very confusing. I wonder if I should mute myself. Anyways, we're releasing socks tomorrow. We're very excited. Meet your best friend socks. But it's not until tomorrow. Today's Valentine's Day. Of course, we have a very nice Valentine's Day promotion. Cupid saves 33% off any and all purchases. But tomorrow, the sock release is going to be huge. And then on March 1st, we have this new Celtic pair that's going to be dropping. It's got a cool Celtic design. And so go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM. You're going to save 20%. Unless you go there today, go ahead and use Cupid. But tomorrow, get the socks using RYM. Very comfortable. We have a red, white, and black pair. We got the ankle and the crew sock. And then we have new hoodies. And just a lot of new styles that you'll like. And then we still have base layers and stuff. I was going to talk about like a tip for business or whatever.
Bobby the Bank, before you give us the business tip, why didn't you tell us of the super sexy stuff that people should be buying for their loved ones for Valentine's Day? Because I know you got the women's lines. I've seen some women in the women's wear, and some of it's fantastic. So why don't you lay it on for the people that maybe forgot to get Valentine's Day gifts of what they could be throwing their girlfriend into? Because same as what Sheath does for my junk, props it all up and makes it looks nice. I know you got some ladies wear.
A system going now. Okay, so we have these beautiful bamboo sets. They're underwear. We have the briefs, we got the bikinis, we got the cheekies, and the thongs. So if you like your girl in the thong, get her the thong and in the bamboo fabric. And we have this flower of life option that is. We also have a male kind of version. So we have it's a white and black flower of life for the men, and same for the women. So you can get like a matching set. Here's a funny thing. We were supposed to have these pink paisleys for Valentine's Day, and they're still on the ship. So those are going to come out in April.
So, Bobby the Bank, before I let you go, why don't you give the people a nice, inspiring business tip as, we come to the middle of Q1. I think that's the fancy business talk.
was talking about advertising and like how much you should spend for advertising. And Sheath spends this like absorbent amount compared to normal companies. You're supposed to spend like 5 to 10% of your total revenue on advertising, but we spend somewhere between 30 and 50% on advertising. So that's like a high growth, aggressive rate of advertising spend. And Robbie knows we pay Gas Digital a little grip of money, and then the UFC and all these things. But what it does also is it reduces your federal tax liability, because when you spend more than you make, you don't have to pay any taxes. So that's the trick to not paying federal taxes, is spend more than you make, or just try to make it right at zero. And that's how the big dogs do it. That's how you do taxes.
I'm all for figuring out how to not pay your taxes and while building the brand. It's the way to do it. Bobby the Bank, I'm going to let you go and get back into it. And we're gonna get rid of the task cam. Look, we have fancy equipment here. You know, people think that we're messing around, that it's all just fun and games, and like we're some sort of a cheapskate, and we're not. Well, I got all the fancy gear, including this guy, which I've never used. This has been here for 2 years. The Stream Deck, not once. But we'll go back to the drawing board. Bobby the Bank, you know what I did? You want to talk about good investments, and you're muted, so you don't get to comment, but we'll look at your facial reactions. I invested in some Adderall yesterday, which really, if you want to boost the business and get into all the things that you're not doing, like reading manuals and running tests just to yourself and recording streams that we'll never see to make sure the equipment works, that's really the only way to do it. So thank you, Bobby the Bank. Thank you for coming on. We love it. Run your mouth. Use promo. You go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM. You get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that has ever graced the balls of man. All right, let's get back into it. Next topic that we've got coming up is probably the most important one, the biggest news story of the day, and that is, are we actually coming to the end of the Ukraine war? And so the last news that we got about what was going on out in the Ukraine was that Zelensky, he wants to stay in this mess. You know, he's afraid now that it's come to the end, people might realize how much of a racket this thing was. You go back 2 years ago, hey, Ukraine's not going to end up going and taking all of Europe. And if anything, you're letting people die for absolutely no reason. And to go even further with how dumb this war was, apparently the territories that Putin has acquired might actually have been so lucrative because of the rare earths that are in these territories that, who knows, maybe Putin's going to actually be like, you know what, every couple of years I better take a little bit more of the Ukraine, because for every slice of the Ukraine that we're able to carve out, we're making a couple $1 trillion over here. I mean, talk about the biggest blunder ever is we are going to say that we are going to move NATO all the way up into the Ukraine, and we're going to do this to showcase the strength of the American government, and we're going to, you know, show the China that they shouldn't go ahead and they shouldn't take Taiwan and the sanctity of borders. And then the end of this mess will be that we spent a whole lot of money, a bunch of Ukrainians died, and Putin actually ended up with some good land. And so the latest is Zelensky's willing to cut a deal, and he's like, hey, if you guys will keep me in this war, I will cut a deal with you guys that you guys can have some of the rare and precious metals here so that we can pay you back. And it's like, we could have just avoided this entire thing. You know what you could have done is, I guess you probably could have just sold off the mining rights, you know, before the war to American companies. And then the American companies could come into all those territories, and maybe they could be there with their own private armies to protect where they are. And then they could mine the stuff. The Ukrainians could get their cut. You could have the firm border. You could have dodged the whole war. It's the commerce side of it, of we could just cut deals, all be making money, pulling things out of the ground, using the kids that are best at pulling it out of there. And we could all make a cut here and get along. But instead, every once in a while, someone gets greedy and they decide, instead of that, we're going to fight the war over this shit. And then it never works out well. And now it was Biden's mess, and everyone's upset with Donald Trump, still trying to contend and exist not in reality and pretend like there was some sort of a way to actually win this thing. Oh, well, you know, if we just kept threatening Putin even more and said, and pretended like we were playing more hardball, he was just ready to give this one up. The only reason that Putin is going to walk away so empowered and successful is because Donald Trump didn't stay the course on what wasn't working anyways. All right, so this is the latest, is that, you know, Zelensky's willing to cut a deal. My best takeaway of why he's willing to cut this deal, or why Donald Trump is even teasing the deal, is that he's got a little bit of leverage as he has his conversations with Putin, so he can sit there and he could be like, listen, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way, I tell Ukraine, they're not getting any more money. You can keep some of the territories that you had, and then you got to start playing nice so that you can make me look like a good guy, and everyone says that I'm not just taking it up the ass from you. And that's the easy way, and then we can go back to having a normal world. We can start trading. I also need you to back off of this whole BRICS nonsense. I need to continue moving forward with everyone using the dollar so I can export my debt. Listen, Putin, you know the way this game works just as well as I do. And I already got rid of your pipeline, so, you know, pipeline's gone. I got to be able to sell more of my natural gas. It's got to be at these prices. You can't be throwing too much of your oil in the market. We need it to be at this price. It's got to be the X level of cheapness. And I need you to start buying up some of our debt, and we got to get back to this game where everyone's using the dollar. And then Putin goes deal, he goes deal, and then Zelensky tries to go no deal, and then Trump goes easy way or the hard way. And the easy way is, hey, you can walk away with all the money that you sent to yourself and get voted out of office in the next election and live a nice lifestyle, or you can become enemy number one, as we're not backing you, nobody's supporting you, and then we got to change the storyline into how much money you made partnering with the Bidens, killing off most of the young men in your country. And so here is Donald Trump in the Oval Office. They're asking about him. Let's roll the clip.
I have a big heart.
Sir, on Ukraine, when Putin says that he really wants peace, do you believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
Do you trust?
I do like that little moment where he does start talking about Putin like he's his lover. Like, I think we have a good enough relationship where he would tell me if this isn't what he wanted. I feel like we're at least at that level.
I believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down, like demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people. When they knocked down those cities, and they're all laying down on the side, they're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. They literally look like a world-class demolition site. And many of them, almost all of them, many of them. And this should have been done by years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
I assume that I had all of that audio muted, so I'm just going to replay a little bit of that, and we're going to move on and somewhat pretend like this episode never happened. Roll the clip again.
Believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
Do you trust President
I
Putin?
believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down, like demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people. When they knocked down those cities, and they're all laying down on the side, they're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. And
It's got to be one of the biggest blunders ever. And, I guess they'll do that thing where they'll claim, hey, if we just stayed the course, if we had just stuck to our plan, we would have beat Putin. We just didn't stick to our plan for long enough. And now, look, we've empowered people to not care about borders. Now, this was from the Wall Street Journal. It was in the opinion section, and I do want to read these two paragraphs. If Ukraine is going to cede territory to Russia, it needs credible security guarantees so Mr. Putin or his successor can't return and invade again in the future. Kiev will need a continued supply of foreign weapons and its own robust military-industrial base. And if NATO is out, the U.S. could reassure by moving the bulk of its European military presence from Germany to Poland and letting American contractors help the European peacekeepers in Ukraine. Jumping ahead, Mr. Trump is wrong if he thinks letting Russia dominate Ukraine will result in less U.S. involvement in Europe or enhanced deterrence in the Pacific. The U.S. will end up spending far more on defense and deploying more troops in Europe to defend Poland, the Baltic states, the NATO commitments. And there's two things that just drive me nuts about this, is that this was Biden's bad blunder. If anything, he showcased the weakness of the U.S. and our inability to successfully bully these people, these other great dictators, from taking aggressive actions against other countries. If there was anything that was showcased by Biden's policy in the Ukraine, it's that if China wants to go ahead and take Taiwan, we're probably not going to be able to stop them. What we showcased was our inability to have these fake non-war escalating things that bully people into our agenda. And you can't pin that on Trump. It was not successful. What Biden was doing wasn't working. And I think what's most ironic about this is that, let's say Putin were to turn out to be more aggressive, and this is faulty logic. This is no different than when Dick Cheney would say, well, think about how much worse the terrorism would be. So, I was saying for the longest time, hey, I don't think Putin's going ahead. He's not going to take all of the Ukraine. I don't think he's looking to take over all of Europe. Look, he's not even taking over all the Ukraine. But I guess if at the end of this war, he walks away with trillions of dollars from territories that were extremely lucrative, and we weren't able to successfully stop him because we showcased our inability to do so, and that maybe he just needs to wait out single administrations. Maybe. I mean, now if you were to move forward with it, you couldn't prove to me it was because we were so bad at and showcased his ability to get away with it. I'm just saying this one's Biden's mess through and through. Good luck trying to blame this one on Trump. Of, hey, we got to stay the course with what Biden was doing because otherwise you're going to show our weakness. You already showed the weakness. We didn't beat the guy. And he's claimed territories and thousands of Ukrainians have died. What is the pathway to victory? Can you explain it to me? Can someone come forward with the pitch of what the pathway to victory is at this point that doesn't escalate towards nuclear war? I mean, it's easy. It's easy to just pretend, to continue to not live in reality and go, well, if we just continue doing the exact thing that wasn't working and continue to do it, then people know that the U.S. is not to be messed with and we're tough. Or maybe that we're just idiots and that we'll actually spend our own selves out of existence and not spend money on better things that would work better and make the world a better place and make us happier, most successful, and lead to economic development. But instead of that, we're just going to spend all the money fighting other people and letting people die in other areas. It's an incredible pitch. After it didn't work, to continue to pretend, well, if we just stayed the course, it would have worked. Prosecutors told Trump to drop Adam charges. We already covered that one. I'm going to skip that. I don't want to play any more videos. Just Donald Trump talking about how bad the Department of Education is. He was basically just saying, frankly, our kids, they're retarded. We got to make them less retarded. That's what we're doing over here. We're going to get rid of the Federal Board of Education so that maybe our kids won't be the biggest retard. That's what he said. If I had the video, you guys could hear it directly from Trump, because when Trump does Trump, it's funnier than when I do Trump. But that's what was going on there. Kennedy confirmed as health secretary. Tulsi Gabbard confirmed as well. I think this speaks to the strength of Donald Trump right now, that Republicans did not want to oppose his picks. I think Donald Trump is so incredibly popular and has been right on so many things, and people are very into what Doge and everyone else is doing, that it's very tough to sell the narrative that Donald Trump and his picks are a danger to the United States and the people of the United States. Because what they've been trying to sell us on forever is Donald Trump is reckless, unqualified, no one's ever been bigger danger and more of a dictator, and we can't and then when you keep seeing him being overwhelmingly right, it's very hard to make the claims of, hey, this guy's the biggest goofball and he's going to get us all killed. When you got Elon Musk exposing fraud on the level that he's exposing, it's hard to go, hey, we got to stay the course. We've got to stick with the institutional players, because anybody that you're bringing in from the outside that the institution is telling you is bad will get us all killed. I think we're at a point right now. I don't know that Donald Trump's going to get out of office as popular as he is right now, but I think he's riding a high. And if you are a standard Republican, unless you're McConnell, who's leaving his post, I think it's pretty hard to oppose Donald Trump or his picks right now. And so we've got both Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard confirmed. And from here, now let's see what they actually do. I never get too excited about things until things actually happen. And so am I really excited that we're going to see Kennedy specifically start going after Fauci, which would be the most exciting thing? Is he actually going to start exposing all the research on what sugar's doing to our kids? Is he actually going to get rid of the vaccines? Are you going to have Tulsi Gabbard stand up? Well, at a minimum, Trump's got people in there that aren't just going to undermine him, go on the news and say, hey, this reckless individual is getting us all killed, and that's why we got to continue to have this Russia-Ukraine war. That's why we need to shut down the country. So at a minimum, he's not going to have these outside organizations that are just completely undermining him. And so, at least he's got a good defense in place where you're not going to have these organizations just working against him and working against his agenda and trashing his presidency. And so that's certainly improvement from the last go-around. As to whether or not these individuals actually play offense, clean up some of the mess, expose some of the racket. It'd be fun, but I'll believe it when I see it. All right. Actually, you know what? Let's read a bit of this article, and then I'll give my commentary. Before we do, why not take a couple comments for all those people that have stuck with me through today's tech errors. And I apologize, and we'll get it cleaned up. I tried switching to the better board. I did episodes where I was playing the videos, recorded it, played it back, going, okay, there's no echo. This shit's working. And then you go live, and I don't know. Whatever. We'll get it cleaned up. Thanks for hanging out. The content's worth hanging in there for. Rock Spaceship, Robbie the Fire Baby. Right back at you, good sir. Adam Magoon. Did everyone see Trump has his mugshot hung up in the Oval Office? I did see that, and that fucking rules. Runaway Slav. Ukraine is a fake Bolshevik convention designed to starve 20 million Christians during Holodomor in the 20s to 30s. Other fake countries are Kosovo and the one with Tel Aviv. Always bringing it back to the Jews. BillTube. It is as if Biden wanted to us all die along with him. Catching 45. Hey, remember when we tricked Russia into spending itself to death with foreign wars? Yeah, and then when we did it to ourselves for the next 20 years. John Popick, don't sell yourself short. We love your Trump impersonation. Thank you, sir. All right, let's take a look at this article, and I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then I will give my commentary. This is from the New York Post. Energy experts blast failed billion-dollar Department of Energy project as financial boondoggle disaster. A major solar power plant project that was granted over $1 billion in federal loans is on the road to closure. Are they going to claw back all the money from whoever the CEO is? Are we going to find out if all the people that raised the money from the Obama administration, the executives, did these people get, salaries that are not in line with their peers that work in this industry? Or were these guys making top CEO pay while their company continued to not be competitive, not roll out a product? Are we going to look into this? I certainly hope so. Seems juicy. All right, let's continue. Project is a boondoggle that harmed the environment. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? A green energy initiative that actually harmed the environment? Fascinating. In 2011, the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, under former President Barack Obama, issued $1.6 billion in loan guarantees to finance the Ivampa solar power facility, a green energy project that consists of 3 solar concentrating thermal power plants in California. The facility was touted by then Secretary of Energy Ernest Moniz as an example of how America is becoming a world leader in solar energy. But after 10 years, the federally funded plant is now on track to close. Ivampa, I don't know what that is yet another failed green energy boondoggle, much like Solidaridad. That's good. You give it really tough to read names, and then people go, that must be good. I can't even read that name. That must be a good company. Jason Isaacs, CEO of the American Energy Institute and an American Energy Advocacy Group, told Fox News Digital in a statement, despite receiving $1.6 billion in federal loan guarantees, it never lived up to its promise, producing less electricity than expected, while still relying on natural gas to stay operational. Now, with its power contracts canceled, EVAMP stands as a testament to the waste and inefficiency of government-subsidized energy schemes. I have to go back and reread. If you guys have never read David Stockman's The Great Deformation, it's a great book. And some of the chapters are standalone great pieces. And he's got one chapter just about Obama's green energy initiatives and how much of a scam it was and how much money was going to private, individuals for companies that never got off the ground. If there's ever been an example of why government should not be investing in green energy initiatives, it's because of storylines like this that they fail, and you have to live in reality. And companies that don't actually create valuable products for the marketplace that are competitive will not work, and they're just handouts. And so for every time you hear from some friend that wants to buy in, well, government's going to mandate windmills, and it's all going to be better. No, you're going to end up with more trash out in the desert that destroyed the environment for absolutely no reason other than one person got a handout because they got to pretend like they were being nicer. That's all it is. It's a bunch of sociopaths pretending like they're doing you a favor while lining their own pockets, while your liberal douche friend pretends like they're the nicer person than you are because they're supporting this initiative. That's all it is. It's the circle jerk of your liberal douche friend going, well, if we can just believe in government, Like Peter Pan, if we'll just believe, then they'll give the money to the person that will do the thing that will save us all. And then government goes, if you just believe in me, I can save you, I can save your kids. And then him and his friend just lining their money into their pockets, making it look like they're jerking off because you can't see my pockets, and going, look, we're getting rich off these suckers. And then your friend pretending like they're higher and mightier than you because they just believe in government. And here's what I want to do. You guys ready? I mean, I'll never follow through with this, but maybe you're out there. Maybe you want to do all the work and you want to throw my name on it because I have ADD. But do you guys remember when coffee tables used to be a thing? Before everyone had cell phones, and so you could show up to someone's house and you'd be waiting for whatever, and then you'd start flipping through the coffee table book, and it would be stupid. It'd be an oversized book with nothing in it, but it was ADD friendly. You got to flip a couple of pages. So I think what we need to do is we basically make a coffee table book called America's Green Energy Initiatives. And you got to sell it like it's a celebration of green energy. And then you make them real short. You know, you just label the project. You get a couple pictures of who was there. And you say how much money they were given. You say which president decided to invest in the initiative. You get a couple fancy pictures of, the nice towers that were out in the desert. And then you talk about the date that it shut down, how much money it cost the taxpayers, how much money the CEO made, and how bad it was for the environment. And you get a whole coffee table book of this thing. There's got to be at least 100 shitty projects out there that ended up being bad for the environment, and they pretended like they were going to save you and wasted money. I'd like to get a nice book, and it should be a parody book, America's Green Energy Initiatives, and just give people the facts, but make it look like it was a celebration. What we could do if we just spend more of your money. That's a decent tagline. Imagine the beautiful carbon-free future if we just give more money over to the United States government. Speaking of which, why don't I take a moment and thank YoCratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, only place in the entire world where you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $60. And speaking about digging into all the money and where it's going, this was reported by Zero Hedge. And the number seems a little bit too remarkable, but they're claiming that President Biden left office having presided over $925 billion in waste, fraud, abuse, and duplicative payments. I mean, that's a wild figure to think of, that nearly $1 trillion was spent just on waste, fraud, abuse, and duplicate. Like, that's not even just talking about $300 billion being spent on a war that's not helpful, $400 billion on entitlement programs that probably aren't helpful, the amount of overspending on the military. This is just talking about money that goes straight into the trash can. And in terms of trash can money, apparently it's close to $1 trillion of just trash can money in 4 years. But don't have Doge, don't have anyone look into it. And we need even more money going to green energy initiatives, because if we don't, we're all going to die in 40 years. If we don't give more money to the government to throw into trash cans to pretend like they're helping us. All right, and then this was also reported, apparently, on the way out, Joe Biden threw about $20 billion into a bank account that was then supposed to be distributed to different green energy initiatives. He didn't run enough money back to himself during the Ukraine war, that he also, on the way out, needed to set up $20 billion into a private bank account at Citibank to then be distributed to, a couple different NGOs that were then going to go invest that money into green energy to make sure that even if we can't shut down the windmills. We're about to have a windmill breakthrough, and I need to make sure to secure the funding so that we can complete our windmill project. Make it seem like you're just about to have the cancer breakthrough, and it's like in the movie when the big boss is coming in and he's just fed up that you're over budget and he's going to turn down the entire office, and so you have the secretary stall him, and then at the last second you're able to print out the thing and go, no, we got it, the cure's in my hand, and they go, man, thank God we evaded the boss. Except that's not what they're doing. I'm sure this is going back to his family that he pardoned. And then this is great. Apparently $7 billion of those dollars was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund, which does that not sound like George? Does that not sound like the Human Fund? The Climate United Fund. What a fantastic generic name. We're going to save that one. I think we're going to save that one. I think we're mostly going to call it an episode and maybe even do one on Sunday because we got a bunch of videos here. And, that's enough episode for one day. We did it. I'll be honest. I'm really so we'll just call it. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Back definitely for sure on Wednesday with the new episode. Filming a bunch of sketches on Sunday. Looking forward to that. We'll have another big grand video intro. I got some good bits for it. I'm looking forward to that one. I don't know if we're going to have the British guy back again. He did a decent job with the intro. And, of course, you can get your T-shirts at robbernsteinmerch.com. In typical ADD fashion, I might walk back off the Fauci thing and start a new cause, which is stand against your neighbors playing loud, bad techno music. And, those T-shirts will be available soon because I'm an artist now and I express myself through T-shirts that other people can purchase until, I have ADD and move on to the next thing. And much like the tech, you can expect, T-shirts that only have one sleeves and are missing some strings. But listen, like I said, I went for the cheap stuff, and I make my $5, and those kids in the factories, they make their money, and then whoever slings the stuff and ships it to your door, they make their cut as well. So, but the stuff's fun. And some of me emails, it's just all announcements at the end of the show. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. We're setting up porch tour. So if you got your porches, you got your wife with big old titties, going to put her in aprons and serve us brownies, that's at the front of the line. Big-titted wives wearing aprons that are serving brownies. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know about those porches. And thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you to Bobby the Bank. We got to have him back on when talk about an ADD fest. Watching a guy who's on a treadmill, and I got to mute, unmute. All right, that's the episode. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And you eat chocolates with your lovers and dress them up in sheath. And then